Perfect. So I am here with Caroline. So Caroline is one of the ladies who's on our program at the moment. Been on it for a few months now, is it? A few months now, Caroline?
Mid-September.
September, yeah. So
Yeah.
since September, yeah. So if you could just introduce yourself and just let everyone know who you are and kind of essentially why you got started with this. That'd be great.
Okay. Well, yes, as Matt said, I'm Caroline Mitchell, and I got started because I got in a real rut with exercise. I was walking my dogs very early in the morning, and I think my body had sort of got used to just being about a stone and a half overweight and just feeling not very fit, even though I was walking. And I just wanted to do a bit more. I am retired, so I have got more time than most people. But although when you're retired, people think you have got loads of free time, and you tend to just plan lots of things in and do lots of things anyway. So anyway, that's my story. I just was in a rut really and wanted to knock off a few pounds and get fitter for my age.
Yeah. And what did you so what had you tried before?
Well, I was going to yoga classes and Pilates, but I stopped doing Pilates because I find it quite difficult and I don't enjoy it anymore. Yoga I really like, or stretchology. I really like that because it makes you feel as if you've been ironed out and you're 4 inches taller afterwards. But it wasn't kind of fast enough. I used to have horses, you see, so that got horses get a lot of adrenaline going, and it gets a lot of stuff out your brain and out your system. So it's quite emotionally and physically satisfying. But I haven't had a horse now for a long time, so I had just wanted to do something a bit more exciting, if you like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So in the things that you tried before, like what was your kind of main goal now? Like, why did you want to start something new? Why hadn't you gone to do something that you'd done in the past and maybe got results from? Like, because I'm always curious, because like, it's almost like if, say, someone's done something before and got results, but then they're not anymore, it can be quite often that we get back to doing something that worked before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, actually. But the problem is that as you get older, you feel slightly more vulnerable. And I'm not completely. I remember my mother, when she got into her late 70s, she was really vulnerable then, and she used to be really fit and healthy, but she started to worry about falling. And I used to, in my 20s, I rode. I mean, I did a phenomenal amount of bike riding. And then friends of mine were knocked off, or the roads became far busier, and I got frightened to do that. I do it around the village, but don't go bicycling much. And horse riding, I fell off 2 years ago, virtually to the day, and I got concussion and ended up in hospital. And it was my friend's horse I was riding, so I didn't have to make much of a decision. I just stopped after that. It was really frightening.
Yeah. So I guess you wanted to find something that wasn't too much impact.
Yeah, something that I felt safe, and I'd only be me against my body, as opposed to me in the hands of traffic, or a horse spooking and running away, or me falling off and breaking bones. You get conscious when you're over 50 or 60 that you're going to smash up more easily.
Yeah, no, I get that. So what were, like, did you have any like kind of fears, concerns before starting? Because, for example, a lot of the ladies will who are maybe thinking about starting anything new will often be like, will have these certain concerns, fears. And I'm just always curious, and I think it's always good to ask, like when some of the ladies are chatting after a session, or in a Q&A, or whatever, whenever people might like starting a chat, and they think that maybe they're the only one who thinks something, and then all of a sudden someone else chimes in and says, oh, hang on, I was like that too, and I did X, Y, and Z. So I just think it's quite helpful to go through that. Yeah. So did you have any kind of fears, concerns before about starting?
Oh yes, I wasn't even going to come to classes, if you remember. We were going to. It would take too much time to drive to Marlborough all the time, but actually it doesn't. And also,
it just paused a bit then.
Okay, shall I say it again?
You just said that you weren't even going to come to the sessions. That was it.
No, I think I emailed you and said I didn't have enough time
Yeah.
to drive over several times a week, and could I do it virtually at home because I'm quite self-motivated. And then we met for our one-to-one. I was worried about everything. I mean, I tried a gym once for a few weeks. I really don't like gyms at all. Like most ladies that come to your classes, I really don't like gyms.
Yeah.
And also, I was worried about all sorts of things: what to wear, how sweaty I'd get.
Yeah.
You know, going out the house early in the morning without any makeup and looking like hell on earth, and all sorts of daft things like that, really, because I get a bit self-conscious sometimes. And and then I came to watch one class through the door, if you remember.
Yeah, I do remember.
Yeah. So
yeah,
and
and I think,
then whether I'd be able to do it, you know, because I tried the first exercise thing I tried was one of your ones where you were doing it outside, and there were some bear crawls and some other thing and push-ups. I couldn't even do them. Couldn't do a bear crawl. Nearly smashed my head on the radiator.
yeah, and I think the key thing, like with all of this, and like I would say, is going at your pace, right? So using the alternatives, and knowing that you haven't got, like, because you'll go into a session, right? You said, right, you know, will I be able to do it? And the important thing is not to look at what someone else is doing, but to actually look at what I'm saying in terms of they've just started before you. That's the only difference. Because if you think about it, you couldn't do a bear crawl or a push-up then, but can you do them now?
Yeah, I can. I mean, yes, unbelievably. I still find them just as hard because I try to do more now. But exactly. It's all relative, isn't it? Yeah. And also, there's always going to be somebody better than you, whatever you do. I've spent my life looking at people in Pilates classes who can do almost like anything, and they're really good. And I can't do sit-ups, for example. Never have been able to. And the teacher used to say it's mind over matter. And I thought, well, my mind's obviously not powerful enough because I can't do them.
Yeah, and I think it's important not to spend too much energy in that comparison state, because the more time you spend there, that's more time taken away from you. And I know I always say this, but it's very true, and that will drain your energy because you're always thinking what you're doing there is essentially putting yourself down, right?
Yeah, telling yourself you're not good enough to try even something.
Yeah, and if you think about how that can then make you feel, and then how you feel will dictate what you do, how you eat, etc., which we'll come on to in a second. I think it's just so important just to focus on getting from A to B. You know, even if you're thinking, you know, there's no way I can do X, Y, and Z, I'm not fit enough. Actually, there's always something you can do, and when you double down on what you can do, that's when you're going to see the best results.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, cool. So what would you say has been kind of what's changed now? Like, what are you doing differently with your food, with your let's if we work through them, like how have you changed your food at all? Like what's working in that? And what have you achieved so far actually in a blanket? So since September, what have you achieved since September? Can you hear me?
Sorry, I thought you'd gone. Well, what I've achieved so far, is I've definitely dropped a dress size, if not two. So the main aim was to try and get back into some really nice, decent pairs of trousers and jeans I've got, and that's worked. Got a bit more to go, I have to say. I wanted to start organising my meals better. I was one of those people that, you know, at 5 o'clock would stand in front of the fridge thinking, what can we have to eat tonight? That's changed a lot. And I still haven't, I'll be honest, I haven't perfected the art of doing your meal plans, because we always seem to have quite a lot of basic stuff in the freezer, which I turn into meals, and I tend to cook for 4 and then try and steal things away from my husband and freeze them. Yeah, perfect. And but the biggest thing by far is getting up at silly o'clock to come to Marlborough. I mean, I get up at 5 on those mornings. And because I can't function without a cup of tea in the morning, so I have a cup of tea and sort of quiet 20 minutes and then drive over at silly o'clock. Yeah. And obviously at the moment we're doing sessions from home. I guess you get more of a lie-in. I do a bit, yes. I don't get up until about 20 to 6. Yeah.
So what would you say is what changes have you made with your food that you think maybe could be beneficial for others? Like what have you done differently to kind of drop exercise? Or do you think it's just from being from the exercise?
Oh no, it's the definite thing I've done is okay, big confession time. I was a vegetarian for a long time. I think I
Okay.
discussed this with you before.
Yeah.
I didn't really miss meat, but I was getting really bad tummy problems. I have got the most appalling digestive system. And I started eating protein again. I started eating in the way of fish, first of all. And then I reintroduced chicken. And whilst I still eat a lot of vegetarian meals, I've
Yeah.
cut down massively on the amount of vegetables because it was just not good for my system. So
Yeah.
that's confession time. So eating more protein. Also trying to make sure I only have 3 meals a day, which
Yeah.
sounds bad. If I need a snack, I tend to have an apple or some nuts or something. And also not buying what people would call dangerous food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Christmas
Yeah.
was a minefield, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I guess going into the stage we are now, obviously as we speak now, it's the 25th of March, just the start of our little kind of lockdown period. Obviously, it's almost like a prolonged Christmas, isn't it? But I guess there's less availability of food. So, but I guess it's a point not to kind of lock yourself away with a load of kind of tempting foods if you're trying to consciously be healthy and fit and feel better.
Well, I know this probably sounds silly, but when it started last week, I thought, right, we're not going to make this an excuse to, to console ourselves by buying all these treats. And goodness knows, we've got the most wonderful little post office in our village. And I popped around there yesterday because they're being a lifeline to us. And they have a whole fridge full of beautiful, beautiful cakes and lardy cake, which I love, and all that sort of stuff. And it's just absolutely amazing. And I just think, no, I mustn't start that. Once you start that, you're on a downward spiral, aren't you, really?
Yeah. But I think at the same time, I think, obviously, if you do have one, just make the conscious effort to have one rather than going, don't have one, don't have one, don't have one. And then you end up having one, then you just feel rubbish, had one. You almost feel like you've given in, right? It's amazing. I think it's so important to not beat yourself up at the same time.
Yeah, although it's really hard, I've learned to do that because I think that was listening to your podcasts and listening to you talking about things like that and sending your emails, because sometimes, food is really nice, isn't it? And sometimes it's really nice to sit and eat something that's just great. We all eat things sometimes that we know we ought to eat because they're good for us, but occasionally you want to eat something that isn't that good for you, but just tastes wonderful.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing. Not everything you eat has to be eaten for the sole reason that it's healthy.
No.
Like we can have food that we just want sometimes. And I think part of it is the thought process. So it's not actually the food that makes us overweight and annoyed, frustrated. It's actually our thoughts about eating the food. For example, a Snickers bar contains about 250 calories. So does a banana and an apple.
Yeah.
However, my thoughts if I eat a banana and apple might be I'm being really good, I'm healthy, I'm fit. I'm now going to go for a run or whatever, a walk. I'm going to have a nice dinner. Whereas if I have a Snickers bar, some people might then go into the I've been rubbish, da da da. And that's where I think sometimes having like a rule with yourself, saying at start date I'll have one Snickers bar. Just so you've structured it in. If you don't want it, don't have it, but you've got permission for it. This is if it depends where you are in your journey, of course, but rather than going kind of hero to zero.
Trust me, nobody could have had a worse relationship with food than I did in my 20s. It was awful. And I wasn't anorexic or bulimic, but possibly verging on being bulimic, but I hate being sick. And I'm trying to make this sound funny because it was just awful, but I used to binge and eat. I'd starve myself for a couple of days, then I'd stuff myself silly with all the foods I thought I shouldn't eat. Been there, done that. Never want to go back to it. So yeah, I think you're right. It's really important to try and not treat food as the enemy, but it's there in life to be enjoyed, and it's how we are healthy or maintaining yourself to do your exercise. really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's an interesting point what you brought on about you've cut down on vegetables. Like for most people, that wouldn't be a good thing. But
No.
I just want to say that if you do have like, and I've done a podcast before with Mike Sweeney, who's a registered dietitian who's helped thousands of people with his clinics when he's working with the NHS, with kind of gut irritable bowel syndrome, things like that. And fermentable foods are often the culprit behind that. So and it's not nice to live like that at all. So we're talking about fermentable fibers. They're normally found in carbohydrates, more whole grain carbohydrates, but also certain vegetables can trigger it. So like green vegetables tend to be okay, but then things like uncooked vegetables, carrots uncooked, potatoes, they can be a bit of a trigger. Whole like oats, things like that can be a bit of a trigger.
Well, yes, I did used to eat an alarming amount of vegetables, so the pains were quite alarming. But yes, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all those sort of things. Yeah, terrible. Artichokes, yeah. And actually, I suppose it is worth mentioning. I have I don't mind telling people about it now. I've got a hiatus hernia, which means I get a lot of acid reflux, so I can't eat tomatoes and things like that. So yeah, it's all quite difficult really sometimes. But you have to just get on with it, because lots of people have things like that. And it's finding out what suits your digestive system, really.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like obviously you've added some fish in. And if you are watching this or listening and you're kind of thinking, I'm vegetarian, should I add fish in? You don't have to. But it is a very good source of omega-3. So like things like salmon, which you have to get from your diet or supplement with. So you can supplement with things like algae, which can be helpful. But yeah, we can more on that another day, I guess. So what would you say, Karen, would be like the 3 biggest things that's changed since being on the program? Like, what would you say your 3 biggest things, the way you've got, like 3 biggest achievements, if you like, or 3 biggest wins?
Well, the biggest win was getting into a routine with your classes.
Yeah,
that's really provided a good framework to my week. The second biggest win was becoming so much fitter, and the things I can tackle now, which it sounds a bit superior to say it, and I don't mean it to sound like that, but I look at a lot of people of my age who are really struggling with their health and their mobility. And I remember hearing a jokey thing once about the ambition at my age is to make sure I can walk to the loo unaided, which I thought was terrible, but it's true. In a lot of cases, people get really infirm, and I think especially when you're older, you really do have to make sure that your mobility is the most important thing to maintain, and that's what your classes have helped me with.
Good.
That's the biggest win. And then the second thing is becoming a bit more organized in my head about my food.
Cool.
Yeah. And also, I have to say, I've met some really lovely people in your classes, really lovely. And I feel as if we're all friends in this together, and make no mistake, there's a lot of ladies who've done far better than me and done more than me, lost more weight than me, and they're doing amazing things out there.
Yeah, good. But you can't downplay what you've done. Dropping dress size, turning up is still a big achievement, and all them, like you've written that, mobility, I've just written down for you, mobility. And because the reason I'm writing them down, more organized with food, is because I think it's good for you to remind yourself of them. If you ever are feeling, a little bit like, I'm not doing that well, when you look back at where you started, look back at that moment, and then sometimes if you just say to yourself, you know what, if I was there now and I could see in the future where I am now, would you have taken that? So if we rewind back to September and you could go to now, you'd probably take it in mobility and what you've achieved so far.
Yeah.
And it's important to remind yourself of that.
It is actually, yes, it is actually. I think one of the good ways of doing that is by photographs. So I was looking at some yesterday and I thought, oh gosh, I have done quite well, better than I thought.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And I guess sometimes I don't notice it because I see you so often, even if it is online.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So obviously, how are you finding the home workouts at the moment?
Oh, it's fantastic. I think when you suggested it, we could all see it was coming, couldn't we,
Yeah.
really? I mean, we pushed on a lot farther than I think a lot of people, but I thought I'll go back into my little room. We're very lucky. We've got a spare room. And so it's it's my room at the moment, and I've got my mat in there. And sometimes I light a smelly candle and all that sort of stuff. So it's my room and my space to do the workouts in. And it's just really good. It's a routine. I thought I must stay in a routine. They were talking about that on the news, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I'm finding them really good fun. I love the fact that there's so many people joining in. It makes us
Yeah.
feel
It
as
is.
if
I
we're
have
all in
already
it
done it in the
together.
past with my magic tricks as well.
Yeah, I mean, I am tired. I'm aching today from all those bear crawls yesterday. That was really intense yesterday, but it's you've done something, and
Yeah.
we are mostly stuck at home, aren't we? Except for people who have to go to work and people who are out there who are still working really hard. And you just have to do something to make yourself feel better, I think, and exercise is good for that.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and yeah, I think going back to routine, yeah, I'd say more important than ever. And I think it is hard. It's great that you've got the spare room. Not everyone has. Like for example, I do the live workouts from my living room. It
Yeah, I
means
know.
that my wife is upstairs. She keeps the kids up there till for a bit longer so they don't come down. Then
Yeah,
in the daytime sessions, sometimes she runs in.
I noticed that yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but the reason I don't really care about that is because I want to make it known that this isn't the perfect situation, this isn't the ideal situation, but actually you've just got to make the most of what it is. And
Yeah.
actually, the people who will get the best results are the people who will just accept what it is and just control their actions because you are in control of that.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me is, yes, I am lucky I've got my spare room, but I think if you can plan to do your routine at a time that suits you, and that you try and really stick to it, and then once you've done 3 or 4, you can, and find a space or somewhere where you can do it where you aren't interrupted, which is why getting up early is quite good, really.
Yeah.
It's easier than later when children are coming home and you've got menus to look at and food to cook and just tough life stuff.
Mm. Yeah. Perfect. Brilliant. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit there and like some food for thought indeed. If anyone does have any other questions on that, let me know. Anything else to add at all at the moment? Anything else you'd want to say or anything you want to kind of go over at the moment?
I'd just like to say that we all have bad days.
Yeah.
When you do interviews like this, you're promoting the best scenario, but we do all have bad days, and
Yeah.
days where we wake up aching, and days when it's so much easier to stay in bed. And I think you have to just not overthink it. I think Debbie Sharman said that once in a post when it was really cold and she'd gone out for a bike ride, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you can really justify not doing something,
Yeah.
can't you? And I think
Definitely.
I'd like to think that's a big win from your classes. I just do it now. I just get up and do it, really.
It's interesting you say that because Debbie's post on that actually stemmed from my post where I said I couldn't be bothered to work out today, but I have, and now I feel so much better.
Yeah,
And
you do feel better for doing it.
yeah, and I think what motivates me personally is actually who else benefits. When you ask the question, who else benefits if I exercise? Well,
Yeah,
family, kids, like work, like everything I do, everyone else benefits because I can't preach something I'm not practicing. If I'm struggling to fit it into my day, that's fine. But if I'm always struggling to fit it into my day and I'm just going, yeah, I don't have time, do I not have time or am I not prioritizing it? And that's partly why the reason why I tell everyone, this week I'm going to be in bed by 10 p.m. And the funny thing is sometimes I haven't been. And I've messaged one of you. I might have messaged you. Someone just said, hey, how's things? And they've messaged me back saying, Matt, you said you'd be in bed by 10. The
yeah,
accountability turns.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is very important to plan things as well, because then you can prioritize things, can't you? It's so easy
Yeah.
for something to fall off the end all the time.
Yeah.
Really easy.
Perfect. Brilliant. I think we've covered some really good stuff on there. And yeah, so are you doing any more workouts today? Are you attending 7 p.m.?
Well, I've got to go and walk the dogs in a minute. We've got a really steep hill in our village we go up. So yeah, I probably will do one later. I'll do one maybe after, follow the recording afterwards. Cool. And I'll do Katie's class as well. I think I need that today.
A stretch.
Yeah.
Perfect. Brilliant. Well, great. Thank you for that. And if anyone has,
thank you.
You know, if anyone wants to get any more information about our 28-day home workout program that we're doing at the moment, like Caroline said, we have kind of stretch sessions. We have meditations, which we had last night. How did you find the meditation last night, actually, Caroline?
It was really nice. It was really good, actually. I don't know where I went during it. I certainly didn't go to sleep, but I sort of come round afterwards and think, no, it's wonderful, actually. And I just wanted to say to everybody to just keep going, because half the reason I'm doing it is because I can see all the people coming up. My friend Sandy King that sent me coming to you in the first place, and all the others that are joining in, the people from your classes. I think that keeps us all going.
Yeah.
That we're all there.
Yeah, perfect. Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Caroline.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.